Fox News and the segment they ran, which we could show you the footage of it, but honestly, I don't want to because I feel like it's unfair to the child, frankly. But the segment was basically a celebration, sort of a puff piece, a Pride Month celebration of a transgendered child who I believe was born as a girl. They transitioned the girl to a boy. And Fox News is on this same bandwagon you feel like you'd see from lots of other like major companies these days, but kind of surprising to see it coming from Fox News, and it seemed to really anger a bunch of people in their audience.
Well, yeah, when you think about it, I mean, what would have been acceptable would have been a fair and balanced. I mean, that's the slogan for their network. Would have been a fair and balanced piece where maybe you interview this family, but then interview someone on the other side talking about the dangers of this and the harms, and then leave it there. But this was not that. This was a propaganda piece that was heroic in nature of this family going through this struggle. And it was really just kind of a shock to me that they would do that, considering, you know, if however straight Fox wants to try to say they are, and, you know, obviously, largely their audience is conservatives, a lot of Christians in there as well. And so you have to think from the perspective of their audience, they've been having this woke stuff, this gender ideology jammed down their throat now for how many years? And then you essentially try to pander to this group that absolutely hates Fox News and hates its viewers and just hates everything about them. What upside is there in this at all? And that's just from a purely just know your audience standpoint. But on the other side of that is people in the Fox audience largely, I would think, would view what some of these parents are doing to their kids as harmful to their kids, as going against God's design for them, as being, in some cases, child abuse. And they're proudly showing this as part of their celebrating gay pride. Did Fox put the rainbow logo on their social media accounts this year? I don't know, but they say that in there. They actually say as part of it wasn't just a segment we did. It's as part of celebrating Pride Month. And I know even a lot of conservatives who are gay don't like Pride Month. They're not big fans of Pride Month and the way it goes. So even the conservatives who might be gay in your audience don't want that.
Yeah, you know, I think that's the most perplexing part of this, because we could have seen this segment run on NBC and nobody would bat an eye. I mean, we might be critical of it, but it would not be shocking to see it happen on Fox News, where, you know, if Fox News is united about anything, it's certainly not against transgendered people, but it is against this wokeness sort of thing. And I think when you come to, you talked about, you know, mentioning it as child abuse, I believe some of their hosts have called it just that. This is not a borderline issue when it comes to the audience or the hosts, and it makes me kind of wonder: is this a corporate news corp sort of Murdoch, you know, force down
or something?
Yeah, like one of those things where like they decided at the top of the corporation, we're all going to run a bunch of segments celebrating this stuff, and you have no choice. I mean, that's certainly possible in a top-down control. There's been a lot of talk about how the Murdochs maybe are more socially liberal than the audience of Fox News. Do you have any idea how this came about?
Absolutely no idea. And you would think that, I mean, that seems to be the most plausible case, because I don't know how any of the producers, the executive producers, all the levels that would have to go through to get approved. You would think one of them would say, I don't know if this is going to go over too well with our audience, and maybe we should do it this way. That's where you would get the suggestions of having the other side on, or having, you know, the warnings out there. Have Matt Walsh on, who you just had on probably to promote his documentary, right. What is a Woman? Yeah. Right. And so do all that stuff. And instead they didn't, and that made it on the air. And it was just, it's inexplicable. And other than somebody at the top who, like you said, might be more socially liberal, that's a good explanation, because it's better than any I can come up with.
You know, and I really just don't generally like the blank month segments. You know, they do, you know, Black History Month, you see the same stuff. And it's like, you don't need a month to celebrate Black history. Just tell their stories when they're interesting. You don't need to. I hate that stuff. I just, you know, the pink socks in the NFL, whatever month that is, every year.
Because it comes across as pandering. We have to do this because it's this month. It's the old Rush Limbaugh thing where he used to talk about Valentine's Day and saying that it was the worst day because you're only doing it because you're forced to do it as a guy, not because you actually want to go get like flowers from your spouse or girlfriend or whatever. It's because you're being forced to do it. And it's the same thing with these sorts of mandated months and days.
I noticed your hatred there. You didn't even mention if you wanted to get your boyfriend any flowers. And we're going to knock you out. You got an anti-woke point right there you just accrued, Dan. I hope you're okay with that. I find it to be a very, like you could tell it, like let's say you had to do this and you wanted to tell a story of Pride Month. Again, I don't know why we're even engaging in this, but like if you did, you could tell the story of someone like, our friend Riaz Patel, a guy who was on the left. He's gay, he's married, and he came to meet a bunch of conservatives, and he went across the country and found it to be a much more accepting place than you might have thought, right? Like that's a story that maybe the Fox News viewers would say, hey, that's great. Like you're saying something good about America, even though you're doing a Pride Month segment.
Right.
This is like, hey, the most extreme thing we can find of a 5-year-old being transitioned in gender and this lauding of this. I mean, it really is legitimately shocking.
Yeah, you're right. And that was the thing I was going to point out too, is that we knew you're going to promote, instead of find some conservative value in there that would resonate with the audience, you're going to promote these clueless parents who are just going along with this. I know they were earlier on the spectrum, but they're just going along with that virtue of, when your kid is 3 and says something, it's got to be true. Right. I mean, if you're a parent and you're doing that and you're like taking notes from your 3-year-old, that's backwards. I just want to point that out. Yeah,
kind of. Our own Allie Stuckey decided to tweet about this. And I think with a really calm, rational tweet, said this: I'm stunned that Fox News ran a segment celebrating a girl whose parents transitioned her into a boy when she was 5 because she apparently told them she was a boy, quote, before she could talk. Absolutely maddening and heartbreaking. That tweet got Allie Stuckey suspended from Twitter. Now, after a while, they decided to lift the suspension and said, oh, we're so sorry, we made an error. We've heard this a million times before. But like there really has been
error.
Yeah, there's always an error. It's always the same direction. It's always against the same target. But like there has been a real change, I think, with social media where, there was a time where just, maybe calling people nasty names or being harassing would get you thrown off. And there was questions as to whether that was the right thing to do or not. Now it's just like any criticism at all, any stepping out of line with the mob, and you're toast. I mean, people are begging for Elon Musk to show up.
Well, it's the language wars, Stu, and I know you and I talk about this a lot, but the left has mastered this art of working language to their advantage. So they've set the ground now by saying that all of these things, X, Y, and Z, if you say this, if you misgender, it's all very harmful to transgenders. So they've been spending years now tilling that ground. And so now when somebody comes out on Twitter and just criticizes, well, you're harming. So they've convinced everyone now that all of these things are quote unquote harmful. Not actually mutilating your own body, right? That advice isn't harmful. Irreversible surgeries and breast reduction and all of those kinds of surgeries that go on with the transgender movement, none of that is harmful. But if you speak something even remotely disagreeing with it, they've defined that as harmful. And that is what is insidious about these language games, is because they do it over and over and over. They repeat it. They pressure people. They bully them. And they say, well, people are killing themselves because of this and this and this and misgendering. When you could make the case that a lot of the problems that transgenders face is because they're going against God's design for their actual own body, the way they were designed. And they're looking for fulfillment in these gender ideologies, and they're not going to find it. They are absolutely not going to find it. And they're going to be left more despair and more depressed than they were beforehand. No one ever talks about that. You're not even allowed to say that. This show probably just got canceled for saying that right now.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I know. Sorry about that. I was going to say, you actually probably got canceled while you were reading Allie Stuckey's tweet. They probably just said, oh, delete him.
Probably true.
If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe to our channel so you'll be sure to see similar videos from BlazeTV, with the added bonus of signaling YouTube that your voice and opinion still matters. And if you're looking for more great conservative content, check out one of the 2 videos suggested here. Let's go, Brandon.